This is a special lesson for children from Year 2 at Hardingstone Academy. I'm Canon Beverley Hollins, I'm your vicar in Hardingstone, and I was supposed to be seeing you in school, but of course none of us are allowed to go out at the moment unless we really have to. And so I can't come and see you at school, and I'm making this film instead. Now, if I'd come to school, I would have been talking to you about the Bible, so that's what I'm going to do. This is a Bible. I've got a few Bibles, that won't surprise you, will it? And the Bible is the special holy book for Christians, but also this word Bible here is used to mean the holy book for Jews as well. Now that might surprise you. You might think, no, Jews call it the Torah. Well, yes. The Jews' Bible has more than one part to it. And the first part is the Torah, and then it has books of the law and the prophets. And when you put all of those books together, they are the Bible. Christians added some more books still, and to remind us of the difference between the Jewish Bible and the whole book with the ones we've added, we talk about the bit that is the Jewish Bible as the Old Testament, and the bit that we've added to it, the Christian bit, as the New Testament. And the whole thing we call the Bible. And the Bible is here to tell us a story of God's love. A story that starts with God, who loves so much that he wants to make and create so that there is something to love. And he made and created a whole universe. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us exactly how he does it, because it isn't a science book. It's a book that is getting across the message that God is doing it. And a lot of people say, well, it can't be true because the details aren't right. Science tells us it happened differently, but that's not the point. The point is that this is telling us that God wanted to do it. And we don't expect a book with stories that are 6,000-year-olds to get all the details right, do we? And so it tells us the story of God's love. God making a world and loving it. But because he loved it so much, he let the people do whatever they wanted to do and have freedom to choose to love him or not love him. He didn't make us all puppets that just do what they're told to do. I've got a puppet here, and this puppet will do whatever I tell it to do, whatever I make it do. Look, this is a puppet Jesus. But this puppet Jesus can only do what I tell it to. No, I'm not like that. I'm not God's puppet. I don't just go where I'm put, like the puppet Jesus that I've just put down does. Which means that I might make mistakes or do things wrong or make wrong choices or say, no, I don't love God. I don't even believe in God. And so God has sent messengers to tell the world about his love. And in the Bible we have their story. How he sent a whole family, a whole community of people to show the world God's love. That's the Jewish people. And not everyone would listen to them. In fact, not all the Jews would listen. And so God sent special people who we call prophets to keep on saying that message. I love you. Will you love me? That's the essence of it. And eventually, the Bible tells us the story of sending Jesus. And Jesus, his own son, coming to live out that message of love and show it to people and give us the chance to say, yes, I love you. And then the Bible carries on telling the story and starts to look ahead and look forward to what's still to come. So it starts at the creation of all things and it ends at a place where all things come together and are made new one more time. And the world that we know changes and is renewed and refreshed, and everyone comes together in God's presence. It's a beautiful book and full of lots and lots of things. It's made up of 66 shorter books. And within those 66 books are lots of smaller stories. I want to tell you one of my favourites. I've got lots of favourite stories, but one of them is from one of the gospel books. Now, the word gospel means good news, and the gospels are the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they're the 4 books that tell us the story of Jesus and of all the things that Jesus did in his life. And the story I'm going to tell you comes from Luke's Gospel, and it's a story of what happened after Jesus came back to life from the dead. In the story, one of Jesus's followers, not one of the 12 disciples, but another one, this puppet's going to represent him. His name is Cleopas. And Cleopas had seen all the things that happened. He'd been in Jerusalem and he'd loved Jesus and followed him and learned from him. And he'd seen the awful days when Jesus was arrested and killed. And he was together with all of the others in the room where they all hid after Jesus was killed, with lots of the other disciples. And here's another disciple. This one is his wife, Mary. Yeah, there were lots of Marys in those days. And she's amazed because she's just heard from Mary Magdalene that Jesus is still alive. Well, the 2 of them didn't know what to make of it. And they felt quite anxious about it, so they decided that they would leave Jerusalem, and they travelled off to go back to the village where they lived, which was called Emmaus. And as they travelled, they were trying to work out what it was all about, and they were talking and thinking and trying to make sense of things. And as they travelled, someone joined them, someone they didn't know, or at least they didn't recognise. And the person that joined them said, "Well, what's going on? What is it that's been happening? Why are you so upset?" And they were said, "For goodness sake, are you the only person that doesn't know what's been happening? Are you the only person that doesn't know about Jesus and how he was killed and how now they're saying he's alive? We just don't know what to make of it. We're going." And Jesus said, "Well, I'll come with you, but let me explain about Jesus." Now, they still didn't recognise him, but they walked and they travelled together, and as they travelled, Jesus explained to them about the Bible. Now, the Bible that they had and they knew at the time was the Jewish Bible, that first bit, the bit that Christians call the Old Testament. And if you look carefully at it, it's full of prophecies, of statements that tell you about Jesus. 1 or 2 of them even call him by name, although they use the word we translate from the Hebrew as Joshua. The prophecies talk about Jesus sending a wonderful Messiah who will change things and draw people to God. And the prophecies say that one day something awful will happen to that Messiah, that he will be hurt, that he will be killed, but that he will rise again. It's all there if you know where to look. And so Jesus explained it, and they carried on walking. Eventually, they got to Emmaus. It was starting to get dark, and so Mary and Cleopas said to Jesus, "Look, don't keep travelling. Why don't you come in? Just come on in. Have dinner with us." And so they persuaded Jesus to come in. And he sat down with them and they had dinner together. And as they sat down to have dinner, Jesus picked up the bread and he blessed it and he broke it. And the moment that he did that, Mary and Cleopas realised who he was. Just a minute, that's Jesus. No one breaks bread and blesses it like that. We've just seen Jesus. And as soon as they recognised him, Jesus disappeared. They couldn't see him anywhere, but they didn't mind. They'd seen Jesus, the risen Jesus, and he'd explained things and made it all feel okay. In fact, they'd felt as though their whole insides were warm while he was talking. And so, instead of staying the night at Emmaus, they rushed off back to Jerusalem to tell the other disciples. I love that story. One of the things I love about a lot of Bible stories is that they can help us to think about the sort of people we can be, even if we don't necessarily believe that the story is true. So, when I think about the story that I've just told you, I might reflect on it and think about it, and think about the things that are happening to me every day. And I might think, if I were trying to understand what's happening to me every day, can I look in my Bible and see if it tells me anything to help me? Can I try to listen to Jesus a bit more? Because as a Christian priest, that's something I should be doing. And so I try to learn from Cleopas and from Mary, and to be a person that looks at the Bible a bit more and listens to Jesus a bit more. And Jesus didn't tell Cleopas and Mary off for being anxious and afraid and doubtful. So if I'm ever anxious and afraid and doubtful, I don't feel like I'm being told off or I've got it wrong either, because I know that Jesus will want to help me. And like Cleopas and Mary, once I've learned what I should be doing, I want to go back and get on with it and change. Jesus wanted to help them in the story. And he helped them not by barging straight in and saying, "But I'm Jesus," because that would have just scared them even more. But he helped them slowly and gradually, and he helped them think about things and learn them for himself and work it out for themselves, like the very best of teachers. And so when I look at Jesus in the story, I think, how can I be like that? How can I be a really good teacher and help people to work things out for themselves some of the times, to share and tell the story, but not to say, this is what you have to think. So I want to be a teacher like Jesus, and I think about that when I think about the story. Of course, when you think about the story, you might come to different conclusions. You might think, that isn't what Jesus means to me in that story. And that's really good, because when we're really thinking hard about a story, whether it's in the Bible or another story that we can learn from, we might all have different things that we can learn from it. There's so many stories in this Bible, and I hope that you'll have a chance to look at some of them together. Perhaps you've got a children's storybook at home and you've got a favourite Bible story of your own. And maybe you can share what you think about it and what you've learned from it with your friends. All of the faiths collect together the stories that matter to them, the stories that tell us what life means and what life means in relation to God, because all of the faiths are following God in different ways. And those stories in the Bible, or if they don't call it the Bible, maybe the Quran or the Guru Granth Sahib, or one of the many different books that Hindus and Buddhists and Jains read. Whatever it is, those books, those stories make a difference to our lives and help us to make sense of things. And so holy books are really important, and the Holy Bible is really, really important to Christians. I read mine every single day. I read just a little bit of it every day, and I often spend quite a lot of time thinking about what the little bit I've read today means and what it's all about. I will spend time every day reading this Bible for the whole of my life, because that's part of what being a Christian is about for me. And I never get bored of it, because every time I read a story, I learn something new and different in it. I'm sorry I couldn't come into school to see you in lockdown, but do keep on reading and learning and doing your very best. And I hope that you will have a really blessed spring and a great 2021. Bye-bye.